Welcome to Unsigned518. I am here with Tony and Jordan of Rusticator. How's it going, guys?
Great. How you doing?
Fantastic.
I'm doing quite well. And Tony, we actually have met. Years ago. We've known each other for what, 5 years, probably
Something like that.
Because I used to live in Greenwich, and a lot of the musical people that you are part of the circle, I used to hang out with as well, like Andrew Malika and Tom Powers and that gang.
Legends.
Yeah. And Jordan, I think we must have met. We must have, but I'm not amazing at remembering. Remembering
Jordan,
much of anything.
Jordan owns Wolf Hollow Brewing.
Yeah.
Oh wait,
you guys played
own
there
Wolf
once,
Hollow?
right? I think.
Oh wait, how did that not come up? Yeah,
we were saving
there.
it for the show, you know.
Oh yeah. Holy shit! I didn't know that. Yeah, we played Wolf Hollow.
Yeah.
We love Wolf Hollow. Yeah,
I'm part owner there. So
that's wild.
Yeah,
that is. We played there with Angelina. It was at the 10-year anniversary party.
It was pouring rain.
And pouring rain. Like,
and that's I was parking cars, so I was standing. I just got soaked that day. So that's why we didn't interact very much because I was.
But it kind of like, and we roll with the punches as a band anyway. But like, it kind of got to the point where it was raining so much that it became part of the like attraction to it.
Yeah,
like it was like so special that it was raining that hard. Like it was just comical and ironic and just like, all right, well, whatever. And it ended up being like, it was great. Yeah.
And
everybody had a great time. Like the tent was,
huddle everybody underneath
was certainly
the
big
shed.
enough to,
And we were happy, looking back, because it was a manageable crowd for us. I mean, if it were a nice day, we would have had parking problems and just too many people for it to be fun for everybody. Like long lines and stuff. So it ended up working out really well. Because everybody that was there was like, the rain kind of weeded out the weak ones, and then everybody that was there really just wanted to be there.
Right,
so,
and that's what I mean.
Cool.
Like, that was like the air, is that even though it's like apocalyptic rain coming down, everybody was happy. Nobody was complaining about it. Like, everybody was just there to drink beer and have a good time, and that's what happened. And see, I told you we'd get sidetracked. Remember?
There you go. No, that's a good.
I was like, we're gonna totally get sidetracked from the band, and just immediately steer it right off the road. Like, but yeah, that's crazy. Wolf Hollow is a great place, and we'll have to get back there. We were looking at trying to play Halloween there, but unfortunately we had prior engagements and couldn't pull it together. But I want to make that happen again this summer. We'll get back. We'll make it a huge party. Maybe it'll just rain again, and then you'll know it's just
you guys.
Like, we bring the rain. But anyway, what we're here to talk about, besides your lovely brewery, is Rusticator. So, I said before we got rolling, it's kind of your narrative. You tell the story how you want, and I'm literally just going to kind of throw it over to you guys to get the backstory rolling.
Yeah, I was thinking about this before I came over. We've had this band this is our 13th year.
Wow.
So basically, it's a 4-piece band: guitar, bass, fiddle, drums. Sometimes we bring in a steel guitar for our 5th person, but 3 out of the 4 of us were in this bluegrass band, and we kind of collectively quit. This was like 2012. And then we started this band, and then we brought in Derek, our drummer, who I've been playing with for even like 20 years now. Wow. So, and that kind of got the ball rolling. That was like 2012. The original bass player was part of that kind of collective quitting situation, and he then just kind of decided he was done with this band too after 3 or 4 years. And so we had a gig actually booked at Wolf Hollow, and we knew it was going to be his last gig. So I emailed Jordan, and I'm like, hey, we're excited to come and play. And I don't know if you know any bass players, but this is going to be our bass player's last gig. So, maybe let me know. And he was like, oh, I play the bass. And I'm like, well, do you want to play with us? And then he was like, yeah, let's do it. So he came up. This would have been like, when, 2018?
I think it was December 18 or 17, because I think officially.
I was going to say, like, January 18, I remember you came up to my house. Yeah. You had learned like all of our original songs before he showed up and then could just play them. And I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest gift that I've ever been given. The guy owns an amazing venue. He like wants to be in the band and he's really good. And so we've just been kind of rolling ever since then.
And so that you said 2017. And so like the lineups but you do adaptive gigs where you'll do, I mean, Tony, you'll even do solo stuff or duo stuff.
A little bit, yeah. We've been doing more duo stuff the last couple years, since COVID, really, kind of. Just because there's a lot of venues that you can't bring a whole band in.
Right.
And then once in a while, we, if our fiddle player is not available for a gig because he's kind of a busy guy, we will bring in the pedal steel, his name is Roger Noyes. He's played with a bunch of bands around. And I've known him a really long time, too. And then once in a while, if the money is right or like what the situation is right, we'll do the 5-piece, which is really, I would say, the preferred lineup for all of us, I think.
Yeah, that's always really fun to get everybody going. But
right.
to even just to line up all the schedules, is,
it's tough.
That's challenging. But
yeah, we're a 5-piece as well, and it's tough, especially at our age with like band members being parents at teenagers.
Oh yeah.
And shit.
Yeah.
It's like, can we do the gig? It's like I got a daughter in college. Not me. I don't have any kids, but like members of the band like have kids in college that have shit to do. And it's like I get it.
Every person you add is like one more schedule to work around.
Yeah, and it's tough. Like it's really tough.
Yeah,
even 1 or 2 is tough. But do you find like having that adaptability though, like is something like because. Me musically, like I kind of went dormant for like decades, and then like came back out of my shell. Actually, when I lived in Greenwich is like when I like started like playing again, like hanging out with Tom and shit. And I didn't see a lot of working in radio. Didn't see a lot of bands with adaptability. Do you think that's like a product of COVID? Like bands that are like, yeah, we'll play as a 2-piece, 4-piece, 5-piece, whatever. Or was that something that even happened early in Rusticator?
Yeah, no. I mean, when we started the band, I felt like we had a really clear vision of what we were going to be, which was this acoustic band, but not a bluegrass band necessarily, because we had a drummer. He had a suitcase bass drum. And so we were pretty committed to like, we're going to do gigs, just the 4 of us. And then COVID was part of it. The other part of it too was just, I think I wanted to play more. And there's just some stuff came up on the calendar, I think at some point that we couldn't all do. And I asked Jordan and we were like, well, we'll just do it with the 2 of us. And then it was really fun. Or I think part of it too is like there were gigs where like we just couldn't. There was no way that they were going to pay a 4-piece band,
right?
But the venue might be able to afford 2 people, and I'm like, well, this seems like a cool spot.
Yeah.
And but it's actually really fun to play with just the 2-piece thing too, because it's a lot more freedom musically. Like you're not. When there's all 4 of us, like everything has to go exactly the way it's supposed to go, or it's going to go off the rails. But with just the 2 of us, like I can take a hard right, and he'll just go with me.
Right.
Yeah, it's. I think the other thing too is like it's sometimes better to have a gig, even if it's just a 2-piece, and then rather than not be able to do it because of either money or schedule with a 4-piece. So you get more gig opportunities that way as well, and it's also we've seen it where taking the duo gig will lead to then we can bring the whole band back another time.
Right.
People like us; they like kind of the vibe of it, and the whole like adaptability thing I think is really cool. That's my experience musically playing with this group. Is a lot of our gigs it's like, all right, who's the rest of the cast going to be, like, is it just a duo gig, which like Tony was saying is really fun because it's just, 2 musicians just kind of playing off each other, which can be a really kind of fun ride. But then when you add in, all right, well now we have, when the fiddle player is playing, like that's a particular kind of vibe as far as the rhythm section is concerned. But that also is different when the pedal steel comes in, because now you've got another like rhythm section instrument sometimes, but sometimes a lead instrument. And so it's just really fun to kind of feel how all of that balance can come together, and not just sort of be like, all right, well, this is the part that I play for this song, so I'm going to play it this time.
Right.
Like sometimes that's what it is, like we want to make sure we stay together. But then there's other times where it's like, all right, well, we just got to feel how the group is going to sound on this song in this lineup, and that's really kind of a fun way to make music.
Yeah, and there's probably like you were saying, if you come as a duo, that might open the door to like come back in a different form. I was thinking that just sparked that a lot of venues probably do have to adapt as well and pare down their music in the wintertime. But like in the summertime, outdoor space opens up and it allows more space. So like, yeah, bands, if you're listening, be adaptable.
That's I mean, that's a great point. That's exactly the situation that we have at Wolf Hollow.
Right.
Because you played in our outdoor space, and we can set up speakers and point them, and like it's like 140 degrees. We can aim the music around where the people are going to be, and it can spread out, and you can have a 7-piece with drums and horns and stuff like that.
And it was a lot of space.
Our indoor space, if you do really much more than a duo or a trio, especially if you get drums in there,
right,
it can get like real overpowering pretty quick.
And that's probably the case with, I would assume, a lot of venues that have music.
Yeah, places that have good outdoor space. It's going to be like that. A lot of places they'll sort of get themselves set up for indoor music year round because they've got a good spot for it. But places like we play, which is a lot of like breweries and places kind of like that, like more local kind of down to earth kind of places, they usually want to have outdoor spaces,
It's funny because we play a lot of breweries and down to earth spaces too, but we're a 5-piece punk band. And but it fits. Yeah. Like we have a good time. They're great spaces to play.
We're like on the indoor outdoor circuit.
Right.
There's just a whole bunch of spots. I'm thinking of so many of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where like, and I got to say, like, I think we mostly play those spots in the summer. I haven't booked a lot of them with just the two of us in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you feel about winter gigs, like just in general?
Well,
do you see a difference?
We were talking about this before we started recording, like how there's not a lot to do in January. Right. We played at the Depot, rest in peace, by the way, to the Depot, and last January, and it was packed. It was one of the best duo gigs we ever did. Mm-hmm. But same thing, like, it was just a weekend in January. It was cold, so like, what else are you gonna do?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's tough to gig in the wintertime. Like,
yeah, the weather. Like, if you got to travel,
rely on the fact that it may be harder to get there, but the weather may keep people away, and that shit may come up 48 hours before the gig. All of a sudden you're like, cool, there's a nor'easter coming in, and gigs are gonna get canceled.
I do think like our band too sort of collectively has a little bit of seasonal affective disorder going on. Like at least 2 out of the 4 of us. And so I would like, I think
we're 5 for 5. So.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever played a January gig, not for years.
Yeah,
we played right before COVID, January 2020, which I remember because we did 2 gigs that month, and then everything shut down, and I was like, oh, shoot. But yeah, I don't think we've played I guess the Depot when we played that duo one, but yeah, I don't know. But I chose to take this January off. I did 46 gigs last year, so about half with Rusticator, and the other half like backing up various other people, and I got like kind of burnt out in the fall, and so I was like, I'm going to take January off, and now I'm kind of losing my mind a little bit, like I need to play. So I guess it worked.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of gigs. I mean, that's like as many gigs as we've done in 3 years.
Yeah.
Like
this is like, so I turned 40 in 2024, and I kind of decided that was the year that I would just say yes. And so we have this band, and then I was kind of side projecting with Tom Powers and Shannon Roy, who I think has been on your show too.
No, she has not been on yet.
And then I kind of got roped into another band, and so I like had all these again because I just was like, well, I'm going to say yes,
right?
Because it's like manifesting, like if you say no, the spigot turns off. And if you say yes, the spigot stays on. So
and you can only say no so many times before the spigot does not come back on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now I think I've kind of like figured out like maybe a slightly better balance for this coming year to not get so overloaded.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's tough. Like, most of the obviously the name of the show is Unsigned518. Most of the bands I talk to are people with day jobs, and like that's hard enough. And then you do this on top of it, and it gets gets overwhelming pretty quick, and like you got to keep it fun.
Yeah,
and I guess knowing when to slow down is a good thing because a lot of people don't.
Yeah,
especially young. You hear younger bands like being like, "No time to slow down, hustle, grind, 100% of the time." You're like, you're gonna burn out. Yeah. Like you're absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's why we've had this band for 13 years or whatever, because like our pace is very slow.
Yeah, and you got to know when to back it up and keep it fun.
Yeah.
Like the best rehearsals that my band ever has, like it never fails, is if we take, like we took a holiday break, took 2 weeks off from rehearsing, so a full 14 days without playing. And then every single time that next practice back is like the best one we've ever had.
That's why we've stopped rehearsing in general. So then when we play gigs, it's like that. We're like, damn, it feels really good to do this again.
Yeah, no, we have to keep the weekly rehearsals going. Or, I'll forget shit. But so we want to hear some music, and I know you've been working on an EP. And we're going to hear a couple songs from the EP, but the first one you're going to play live here in the studio, right?
You got it.
And what's the name of this one? Maybe
tell me a little bit about it. It's called Wedding Season. I like 2010, I went to a wedding in Utica. It was my wife's best friend from college, and so she was the maid of honor. And so I got just kind of set up at the Hotel Utica. I don't know if you've ever been there. It was like an old kind of Art Deco hotel from the 30s, which was super nice probably in the 30s, kind of like Utica itself, like all of our upstate cities, like. And so I was just sitting bored in the hotel room, like waiting for the wedding to start or something. And I like jotted down a few lines, like maybe a verse and a half or something on a little piece of paper. And I kept it and I shoved it in a notebook and I forgot it. And then years later, probably like 10 years later, I was looking through notebooks and stuff, and I found this little piece of paper, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. And so I finished it up, and we ended up with the song Wedding Season.
Cool. All right, well, let's listen to Wedding Season. We have Tony and Jordan of Rusticator live here in the Dazzle Den, and then we'll be right back.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Staring out the hotel window all alone in the sorry little city with the golden dome. The shabby hotels, Victorian homes built on the backs of Italians and stone. Maybe someone famous stayed in my room, pouring bourbon over ice while they hummed a little tune. The star of the screen, an oil tycoon, muting the commercials till the ball game resumes. So put on that black bridesmaid dress and set your hair up in a knot. There's a soft little breeze across the back of your neck, but it's August and the sun is hot. Sweating underneath the sun, rented suit, drinking bourbon over ice while I hum a little tune. The cross on your neck, your subtle perfume, I try to keep my distance while I'm working the room. I shook 100 hands tonight, but I can't shake you. Trying to push away the feelings that I know are true. I stared at the sun, howled at the moon. My mind can't control what my heart wants to do. So put on that black bridesmaid's dress and set your hair up in a knot. There's a soft little breeze across the back of your neck, but it's August, and the sun is shining on the face of the woman I love, while I marry someone I don't know. She's sitting in the corner of a lonely room I have surrendered, just staring out the hotel window all alone. In the sorry little city with the golden dome, staring out the hotel window all alone. In the sorry little city with the golden dome, staring out the hotel window all alone. In the sorry little city with the golden dome.
All right, that was Wedding Season, Rusticator, live here in the studio. The Dazzle Den. Like I was saying, I gotta say it. Gotta get that name in.
From where I'm sitting, it's hovering right above your head too. It's perfect.
the Dazzle Den,
the neon
yeah.
sign. Yeah, it looks great.
I'm laughing for those listening. I'm laughing because of the irony of the Dazzle Den actually just being a garage. But you know, as long as the lights stay dim and there's a lot of distracting disco lights and carpeting that I rescued from being thrown away, it'll be the Dazzle Den.
You'd never know.
That's great. Yeah. I had to look for the garage door. You had to point it out.
Yeah,
you've got it so well hidden. You know?
Well, I do have a couch and a banner in front of it. It's like completely hidden.
Yeah,
No, it's just a regular room. It's cool. It's the studio.
I think it was originally built to be the Dazzle Den. That's
I think in my heart I know that
it was some horse was in here when this was a carriage house, and it was like, this is not dazzling enough for me.
That horse's name was Dazzle.
Dazzle.
Sure.
I bet you it probably was. That's probably the connection. So anyway, that one that you played live here is gonna be on the EP that is out January 31st, right?
Yep.
And then I guess tell me a little bit about the EP.
It's called Let It Run, and that's the name of one of Jordan's tunes, which is, I don't know, my favorite of the 5. It's a 5, so that's technically an EP is usually 5, I think. And so we named it after Jordan's song "Let It Run," which he wrote on vacation somewhere, I think.
Yeah. I was out in Westport. I'd gotten so I'm a minister at a church nearby where I live, and somebody in the congregation has this beautiful house, and they were like, "Hey, why don't you just take it for 3 days, 4 days out in Westport, Mass?" And so I took my guitar and just sat upstairs, and I was looking down at the ocean, and that's kind of where the inspiration of writing a song about river and mountain and river and ocean and that sort of connection there's kind of where it came from. So yeah, I started it there, and then I finished it on a month later. I went out to Cape Cod and I brought my recording gear, and that's where I recorded a handful of songs and sent it to the band. It's just some demo stuff of some of my own music. So yeah.
I got so excited when I first heard the demo. I'm like, oh, this is the song I've been waiting for us. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, everything we do is the thing we do. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to play something that's totally out of left field, but I do feel like it's a slightly new vibe for us. It's a little more expansive and stretched out and kind of droney. And so I was so excited to work on it. And then I'm like, that's got to be the title track. And, but he's got another tune on there, and then Wedding Season, of course. I got a couple other ones. We did like an album right after we got the band together, kind of, and then we released it during COVID, and then after that we were just doing like little singles, like in 2021 where we'd record a song and just put it out on Bandcamp, and we did like a bunch of those. And so we hadn't really recorded anything since then. So this EP is kind of like the next statement from the band. And all those singles were kind of like wide ranging, and I did a lot of it kind of at home by myself, and I put a lot of keyboards and sweeteners and shit on it. And so this time around I was like, I want to make something that is a little more close to what we do live. And so we played all 5 songs from the EP at gigs, like a bunch before we recorded them. And then I think from the nature of being more live, also at least in my head, I was like, let's make this more like a guitar record too. So there's a bunch of guitar solos for my own vanity, and there's no keyboards or anything else. So I think that's kind of, a different direction for us, but maybe a little more honest.
Right. And releasing singles like to an EP, and I'm kind of asking out of like my own curiosity, because my band is we're releasing an album in the spring, and we've always done singles. And you're right, in a single you have that freedom to just do whatever you want each time because it's not tied to anything. Like, how much thought and importance do you put into having those 5 songs be interwoven together when you put them on an EP? Or am I overthinking it?
I think it's a luxury of if you write a lot, which we don't really. I'm not like super prolific, but So I don't know. For me, it's always just like, what songs do we have right now that we can put together?
But that brings with it like a fun challenge, though, in trying to figure out sort of the approach that we're going to take when we record it. Like 2 different songwriters on here, so obviously the songs are slightly different in that regard, just because they're coming out of from different sources. But so there's a difference there, and then the general vibe of the songs tends to be a little bit different. Right from like Wedding Season, which is very like folky harmonica, acoustic guitar, to stuff where we got raging electric guitar solos to feed someone's vanity, I think I heard.
Yes.
Right. But so there's a wider range there, but it definitely creates a challenge of when we put them together and you go to record them and you start to think about like, what kind of instrumentation are we going to use? Are we going to add in a lot of keyboard pads, different things like that? Or, how are we going to orchestrate this? There's still that idea of kind of trying to find a way to weave them together in some way to make it a cohesive sound, even though the genres of the individual songs might be, variant. You're still getting like some sort of a connecting tissue through it.
Cool.
So.
I think the fiddle helps too. Like the fact that there's going to be fiddle on every song is its own stamp. You know what I mean? And it kind of, even though you have, some louder, more rock and roll stuff, then you have more folky stuff, or you have more even kind of classically-ish stuff once in a while, like the fiddle kind of holds it together. And I think we put pedal steel on all these songs too, so that also kind of
that's interesting, that what you were saying, tying them together without necessarily the genre, because ours are they're all over the place. Like we have like a straight up hip hop song on the album, and but I think we're leaving it in the hands of the producers that'll tie those all together, because it's out of our hands now. But I like having the different genres or the different styles that are together and associated with each other, I guess, without necessarily being carbon copies of each other.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. The other thing is it highlights the musicians that you have in the band and what their contribution is, right? Yeah. So like we could play, from like a whole range of different styles, from just old classic bluegrass stuff to like jam band stuff and anything in between, and it's still going to sound like us. And I think that's kind of the cool part about bands that do different genres, is you're not just trying to sound like, that particular style of music, but you're trying to sound like you. So we try to sound like, Tony and Jordan and Derek and Joe, and, when we have the pedal steel player too, but we just try to sound like us doing these songs, which I think,
I don't think we have much choice though either, because I think your personality, and this is going to sound self-deprecating, which I get yelled at by Derek all the time for being self-deprecating, but like, no, but like your limitations are what makes you, and so that's where your personality comes from, is you do the things you're good at and you don't do the things you suck at. Mm-hmm. And that kind of creates that identity. So that carries across everything.
And that's what makes you better as you get older and more experienced. You just stop trying to do the things you suck at.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, wait, I can't. I'm not going to ever do that.
That's for my side gigs. So anytime if I'm a hired player for somebody else, then I can try to do things I suck at. Right. For this band, I only do the things I'm good at.
And it's also good because I see in a lot of, in any approach that anybody's making in music, I'm not trying to poo-poo it in any way, shape, or form, but like, I like having multiple musicians in a band with input, because like you said, you see the different styles and the way that they work together, whether it's a Tony song or a Jordan song, it's still a Rusticator song, but you feel that lean. Whereas I think if you have just one songwriter, you don't get as much of a range, for better or for worse. But I like the idea of expanding and opening that range, because if you have four members with four, primary backgrounds, like that's a lot of stuff that you can pull from to create your own.
Yep. It can be too much. I've been in that situation too in bands, though, where it's like everybody's got an idea and then it gets so watered down that
let's make this like work. Classical, like a Johann Bach, but like with a punk rock and some reggae and a little like blast beat all in one.
Or it keeps changing all the time, or you thought this song went this way and then you're like, wait, but we used to do it like that. Now So
I have a buddy of mine who I wouldn't say gets mad, but he gets mad like when the bands do that, like break up the groove. Like if you're like, you're at a show and you're bobbing your head in time, and then they like break up the groove and like change time. He's always like, oh, why'd you, I was in there. I was in the pocket. I had my head nodding in 4/4, and now you're 6/8, and I don't know how to nod my head in 6/8. It's funny. So I think the album, by the time this episode airs, will be out. Came out January 31st. I can almost assure that by the time this airs, and if not, then whatever. At some point, it will be true.
It will be.
But January 31st, the EP is out, and I'm sure it'll be everywhere that you get.
Oh yeah, it's on all the streaming services. Bandcamp, if you really want to be a good person,
right? Especially on a Bandcamp Friday, it always helps. But I think we should hear another one from the EP, and we said this is a Jordan song, right?
Yeah, this is the one we were talking about before. Let It Run, and this is again just trying to meld the sort of the world of like folky, rootsy, like earthy feel music with our tendency to kind of like to open things up a little bit and jam a little bit. So it's going for that kind of vibe.
It's got a great guitar solo.
And it's got a great guitar solo.
So humble.
Not self-deprecating at all.
All right. Well, let's hear Let It Run, Rusticator, and then we'll be right back to wrap it up.
There's a mountain high above, looking down on all below. And this mountain is rooted down deep beneath all the stone. this ocean, tides will roll, bringing love to all below. Let it run. Let it There's a river on this mountain, flowing deep, flowing home. And this river carries love, flowing down. Let it
All right, that was Let It Run, Rusticator, off their EP out everywhere, January 31st. So, Tony and Jordan, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come and do this with me. I really appreciate it. And before we go, like I do with all my guests, I want to give you the chance to say what I refer to as your gratitude. So, Tony, we'll start with you.
Oh, man. I am grateful to a lot of people. I guess my bandmates, first of all. I just text them all the time. Sometimes they write back, sometimes they don't. But yeah, they're along for the ride for sure. And of course, I have a 10-year-old at home, and my wife and kid, they literally never give me grief about gigging. They don't always come to the gigs, but they never give me a hard time about not being home. So that's cool. And of course, all my other pals I get to play with, Tom Powers and Shannon Roy, Tumble Stop, which is a bunch of dudes from Cambridge. It's cool. I like being able to have a bunch of irons in the fire and get to play with a bunch of different people.
Yeah, I got to start by thanking God for the beautiful creation of music and getting to work with that. It's like still fascinates me all the time, the way that sound just happens, and so that's amazing to me. I got to thank specifically Tony, who said that I was the greatest gift he's ever been given, and.
Well, except for my wife and child, I guess.
Oh, come on.
And your blazing guitar solo.
Yes. I wish you would tell my daughter that, what a great gift I am. Sometimes she needs that reminder. No, she's awesome. But no, actually, a serious thank you to Tony for for taking the flyer on me. I think I could remember reading the tone of his email and like not being quite sure if I was just blowing smoke that I was a bass player. And so I think he kind of took a flyer and said, all right, well, let's see if we can jam sometime. And that was really fun because I hadn't played in bands much before that, or recently. Like there was a period where I gigged a lot, and then I hadn't for years. Got too busy with the brewery, so that got me back into music. So thanks to Tony for that shot, and the other bandmates. Love playing with these guys. Absolutely love making music with them. And a big thanks to my daughter. She's one of the biggest Rusticator fans. She loves her music. She likes to come out to gigs, and I give her the phone, and she takes videos of us and everything, gets all artsy with it, and she just loves the fact that Dad's in a band, and she
social media manager.
Yeah, that's she's about to get into that stage of life. She's 13, so she'll be really good at it in a year or two here. So, yeah, those are my thanks, I guess. Plus everybody.
And thank you, Andy, for everything you do for our scene.
Thank you. All right, so they are Tony and Jordan of Rusticator. I am Andy Scullin. This is Unsigned 518, and I'll see you on the road.